I've got a question for you. How many times have you been scrolling through YouTube and you see the same thumbnail? Build systems, not goals. Forget goals, focus on systems. And you're sitting there thinking, what the hell does that even mean? What are systems? And how does that work for me as a writer? I'm Nadine Matheson, best-selling author of the Inspector Henley Thriller series, and I'm going to break it down for you, specifically for this writer's life. Not the fantasy version or the Hallmark version, as I like to call it, but the real writing life. So let's get straight to the point. You're a writer and you want to finish a book, but staring at that blank page and wondering how you're going to get to the end is overwhelming. And that's what a goal is. A goal is the end. The goal is the end result. The goal is you saying, I need to write a novel. But when we think about the task of it, writing 80,000 words or maybe 90,000 words, if we have a deadline, if we've got a contract, your editor's asking for your manuscript, all of that is overwhelming. And all of that makes you feel as though you're in a massive pressure cooker. And then you add on life onto that. You might have a full-time job, you've got kids, you're probably running another side business, you've got life events that just throw themselves in your face. No wonder people freeze when they stare at that blank page and they think about the goal, finish the novel. So the goal is finishing the novel, but how do you get there? That's when systems come into play. Systems are the tools. These are the things that will help you get to your goal of finishing a novel. And I'll tell you about the systems and the tools that I use in order to finish my books. So as I said, a goal is the destination. A system is how you travel. There are many things that you can't control in this writing life. You can't control how fast the book sells. You can't control how it's received. You definitely can't control your Goodreads ratings. And you can't control whether everything goes smoothly or not. But there are things that you can control. You, the writer, can control how often you write, how you structure your time, and how you return to the work. And you do that by putting the systems in place. And what the systems do, they move the pressure away from showing up and put the focus on doing the work. But there are things that get in the way. And I like to call these things the social media trap. Now, the social media trap is you minding your own business on Instagram or TikTok or on YouTube, and you see a writer saying, oh, I wrote 3,000 words today. Another one says, I wrote 5,000 words today. Another one says, I smashed it out of the park. I finished my book. Great. Meanwhile, you're sitting there struggling to get 250 words down on a page. And don't get me wrong, I've been there. There have been days where all I've managed to write is 125 words. But then there have been one day in particular where I wrote 7,000 words. I did that under duress. I had a deadline. It had to get done. It will not be repeated. So when you have those days when you're looking at everyone else around you and they're all achieving your goals and you're still looking at that blank page, what can you do to help you get to the end? What are the systems that can help you reach your goal? First of all, you need to decide how much you can realistically write. Not optimistically, but realistically. Pick a target that you can hit consistently. Now, the book I'm working on now, my minimum word target is 600 words. But I know on average I can write 1,600 words. But I'll explain to you why my minimum target is 600 words later. Third, you need to decide when writing happens. I do that by blocking my time. So I will say for this hour, I'm going to write. For 2 hours, I'm going to write. I'm only going to write in the morning. I'm not going to write late at night. So you need to find the time. And now you need to find the tools that will help you get there. Now I'm going to tell you the tools, the systems that I've put in place to help me finish the book that I'm writing now. So I have to deliver a manuscript to my editor. My contracted word count is 100,000 words. The systems I use to help me get there start with this. First of all, I use Scrivener. So Scrivener is a writing processing software program. And the thing I love about Scrivener is that you can have multiple book projects open. So I have the project I'm working on now, and I also have what I call my secret project. So you can open up multiple book projects. Within the book project, you can split up the chapters Importantly, you can move the chapters around as you're working through them. You have a notepad section, you have a corkboard section, you can post links to your research, you can scribble notes, you can create synopsis of the work, you can create different tabs for your characters and your settings. You can color code it. So, for example, if you're working on the first draft or the second draft, you can do all of these things. And it's just a very neat way of working on your project. And when you finish, you can compile all the documents and print out your manuscript. Now, I use Scrivener for my first draft, my second draft, and my rewrites. But when I'm then working with my editor, I then move on to Microsoft Word. Now, the reason I move on to Word is because I will send the final manuscript in a Word document to my editor. She'll do the edit and then she'll send me back my edited version of the manuscript with her comments on the Word document. So I use Scrivener and I use Word. In addition to that, I use another software program called Eon Timeline. Now, timelines are the bane of my life. I don't know why I do this to myself, but my last couple of books have had multiple timeline strands. And as I said, it's the bane of my life. But I'm able to keep it under control and track it. And the best thing about Eon Timeline, not only does it enable you to create your timelines throughout your book, but it can also help you to plot your book. I am very much a planner. I'm not a pantser. I plan my books. I use the 3-act story structure. And Eon Timeline has a section where you can plan out your book following that 3-act structure. So that's what I use. In addition to that, I track my progress. Now, this has helped me because, as I said, I'm always working on multiple projects at a time. But for the book that I have to deliver in a few months, I tracked it on a spreadsheet. So on this spreadsheet, I've got a column that starts from the date I've started writing the book, and it has my final deadline date. And every day I have a word target, so the minimum number of words I have to write. So for this book, the minimum number of words I have to write is 600 words a day in order to reach my target of 90,000 words in the next few months. And then I can input the actual amount of words that I've written for the day. Even though my minimum is 600, on average, I'm writing about 1,500, 1,800 words a day. And the next column will give me my cumulative word count. And then the column after that will be my actual word count. And that way I can see if I'm ahead of target or if I'm behind target. And I found creating that tracker, even though I hate spreadsheets, I hate Excel, but I found that creating that tracker has been a really good way of not being overwhelmed by the process of writing a book. So these are the systems and the tools that I've put in place to help me finish my book. And in addition to all these systems that I've mentioned, I've also found a way for me to remain focused. Remember I said earlier that I time block my time, but in order not to be distracted by going on social media or by whatever emails popped into my inbox, I've also downloaded the Freedom app onto my computer. And what you can do with the Freedom app is block out the internet. So you're not going on random websites and going shopping or going on a social media platform when you should be working. And you can schedule how long you want these, I call them blackout sessions. It's helped me to remain focused. Now, another thing you need to think about, and most importantly, how you shift your mindset. And remember, yes, your goal is to finish the novel. Yes, you've got systems in place. But your job is not only just to finish the novel, your job is to run the system. Because you have to remember, these systems and tools, it keeps you steady. Another system, another tool I didn't mention, it's my Spotify playlist. I have a writing playlist. It helps me write. It helps me write quietly without the drama. Having the systems and tools takes away the distractions and it gives me focus. Hopefully, I've given you suggestions for systems and tools that you can put in place in order for you to reach that final goal of finishing the book. And you got to remember, sometimes you don't even need to have all these software programs. Simple pen and paper will do. You can create your schedule in a paper diary if you want to. You can create your own tracking system. If you're unsure about any of these systems and tools that I've spoken about, then just download the trial versions. See how they work with your writing process And if you feel that these are actually going to help you run the system and achieve your goal, then it's a good investment to make. So tell me in the comments what's one small system change you could make this week. And if you've got any other questions that you want me to answer about the writing life, then feel free to let me know. And I'm going to put all the links to all the systems and tools that I use in the description. Bye.